this is my last question. There was a report that came out today. I think the amount of miles driven per day by Waymo is about to pass 250,000. We have Tesla with Cybercab and Robotaxi. These things have a material ability to prevent drunk driving and prevent vehicular deaths. What do you think should be done? Should we let this play out at this exact pace? Is there a responsibility from the federal government? Do you wish you had done more to accelerate this? Tell us about autonomous driving and its role in society.
So I think that there's the potential to save a huge number of lives. You know, we talked earlier about the incredible standard of aviation safety, right? 0 fatalities per billion, better. It's the opposite on roadway safety. Nobody talks about it. And we had a plug door blow out of an airplane, and we reconsidered our whole oversight framework because somebody could have gotten hurt that day. Meanwhile, every day, 100 to 150 people die on our roadways to car crashes and vehicles driven by humans. I mean, it's enough to fill a 737 every day. It's on par with gun violence, 30, 40,000 people a year. So human drivers have a murderous track record. It's a little bit different when we talk about professional drivers who have incredible, I met truck drivers who'd have, 2 million miles with no crashes or accidents. But just as a general rule, most of us, the average driver thinks they're safer than the average driver. And the average driver stands a shockingly high percentage chance of getting somebody killed. So, I think we're at the point where at least some of these technologies right now already are safer than human beings. And that's only going to increase and improve. And the irony of it is, even if a handful of highly publicized negative incidents will really change public acceptance. So my approach was...
And they have, yeah.
Yeah. So my approach was we do need to be conservative as a safety regulator to make sure it's safe. Not because I don't believe in the technology, but because I do. Because I think if people see it unfolding safely, there's going to be more acceptance. But are there things we could or should do or could or should have done to accelerate AV adoption? I think the answer is yes. Like the simple reality is we can't tolerate, like it's no big deal, human drivers killing more than 100 people a day on our roads.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Among the things that have come up as I've listened in this hearing is the human factor behind the wheel. So, Mr. Maravi, you've spent your career involved in designing systems for automobiles, both with drivers and without drivers. Am I correct?
Yes, Senator, that's correct.
Could you tell me what things that you've worked on designing over your career have reduced deaths in automobiles, in passenger automobiles?
Yes, Senator, the list is quite long, so I'll try not to belabor everyone here. But I've worked on systems related to crash safety, occupant restraints, autonomous driving systems, driver's assistance systems, automatic emergency braking, and all of them have had some impact on saving lives.
But then didn't it drop to a point where it kind of plateaued?
Yeah, if you follow the number of deaths on American roads, we've made great strides as an industry since the 70s up until about 2005, where we've sort of leveled off between 35 and 40,000 deaths a year. And it's really tragic, to be honest. It's like, as a safety engineer, it's like hard to not see that number go down. And my team and I, we work every day to try and figure out ways to reduce it. And
what made it plateau?
Well, Senator, there are a number of causes, I'm sure, in any data set. But, in the early 2000s, there have been a number of studies that point to the advent of the smartphone and the amount of distraction that causes within a driving scenario that have made it difficult for safety engineers like ourselves to further reduce that number.
So texting and driving. So it sounds to me like efforts have been made to help humans not kill themselves in cars, but it reached a plateau because texting and driving and distracted driving is something that you can't correct for in a way that continues the decline of automobile deaths. Am I correct?
I think that's a fair assessment, Senator Loomis.
Well, so one of the things that makes me excited about autonomous vehicles is it does provide another leap in our ability to prevent human error in automobile deaths. Am I correct?
I would say that I believe it is the next giant step we can take as an industry.
So here's why I think it's so important that we work with NHTSA, that we have some national standards for autonomous vehicles. I think everybody here in this room, unless you're really young, knows somebody who was driving drunk and died, who fell asleep at the wheel and died, who slipped on black ice because they were driving too fast and died, who were texting and got in an accident. These are so common in my state of Wyoming, where we're driving long distances alone. I was once asked what is the most important factor for running for political office in Wyoming, and I've always said it's the ability to drive long distances alone without falling asleep. Because we're campaigning one day in Meeteetse and the next day in Rock Springs and the next day in Cody and the next day in Cheyenne. And so you're driving because it's retail politics. You have to get around. And I am so excited about autonomous vehicles for a couple reasons. I have 3 grandsons. They're all under the age 7. Autonomous vehicles provides an avenue for them to get home at night when they have exercised poor judgment as human beings. And I hope they don't exercise poor judgment, but they're boys, and they might. It also protects people who have driven and fallen asleep in Wyoming because they're pushing themselves too far. And this texting and driving thing is not something that plagues me, but it terrifies us as parents. So the last thing that makes me excited is I'm quickly entering the era when I might be a little old lady who wants the freedom to still be able to drive when maybe she should not. And I just want a button in a car that if I don't know where I am, or I'm not as sharp as I was behind the wheel, that I can push a button in the car that says grocery store and another button that says home, take me home. And the freedom that will give elderly people is such a comfort to me as I become an elderly people. And Mr. Chairman, the work you're doing on this, I join you in being excited about it. You know, I got to ride in a Waymo out in San Francisco. And there were 2 interesting things to me. One is how safe I felt. The other was when we pulled into their yard, how many jobs there were for people that were working on the cars. They're different jobs in the same industry. And what Tesla's talking about doing with automobiles where all the parts are made in America and they're using like U.S. lithium and other raw materials to make these cars, that's transformative. That's game changer for personal passenger vehicles. So I just want to compliment the people that are testifying today. I think that the opportunities provided for human safety are unparalleled, and that the jobs that will be created within the same industry are a little different than the jobs that we have today in that industry, but they're jobs nonetheless, and they're going to be good jobs. So I'm excited about this technology. I can't wait, because if I ever get dementia, man, I want that little take me home button on a car. It's freedom for old people, and it's safety for young people. And so I want to thank you all for what you're doing to advance the opportunity for those of us who want to get home safely. And Mr. Chairman, count me in on your efforts to create a federal standard below which you cannot fall, but that has the criteria NHTSA needs to move forward and help this industry embed and grow in the United States. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, and I will say, at least for the next year, you're in a good place for dementia. You're in the U.S. Senate. I also want to encourage people to listen to Senator Lummis's excellent description of being a parent or a grandparent and concern for the safety of young people. And I think you're exactly right that AVs are a total game changer. I say this as the father of 2 teenage girls. I am very concerned. I will not let my daughters go in an Uber. In my hometown of Houston, 4 Uber drivers were just indicted for sexually assaulting teenage girls in their car. And I am thrilled for the day that I can send an AV to take my girls where they need to go, and I don't have to worry about a man in the front seat who might do something violent. And I think there's a lot of parents who share exactly the concern that I have, and I think that's an enormous safety improvement as well. Senator Duckworth.